So the opportunities that come to you are meant for you at that time. So, don't try to rush things. Yeah, just be consistent, and what's for you is for you.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2BE podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
Welcome to another week of the RD2BE podcast. I'm your registered dietitian host, Carl Barnes. This is our podcast where each week we sit down with a different awesome registered dietitian to really showcase the diversity of opportunity in the profession. Whether you're first year in your undergrad or you're an intern, it's important to get that exposure to see just how wide ranging the opportunities are in this awesome profession that we all have come to love. So this week we're sitting down with a registered dietitian from Philadelphia, just a little ways up the way from us. Carlie is here with us. She works in women's health among other practice areas. So thanks so much for being here. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, I'm Carlie Beaucejour. I currently live in Philadelphia, and I have a virtual private practice in nutrition coaching, helping women as well as everyone, helping them have a better relationship with food, as well as get a better understanding of their personal nutrition.
Great. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us today. As always, I'm Emily, your RD2BE from University of Maryland, College Park. So would you mind just talking a little bit about your undergraduate degree as well as your master's program?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Delaware. I was originally nursing, and I switched to dietetics. All the prerequisites for nursing was very similar. And I actually ended up being a fifth year senior, which may be common in the dietetics profession and career. But I was there for 5 years, and then I took off 3 years before actually applying to the internship. And during that time, I was taking master courses for my clinical nutrition at New York Institute of Technology. So I paid out of pocket for my master's. So I was working while taking classes. I did like a class or two each semester. So slowly build my way to get my master's, but that was the way I could afford it.
So you pursued a master's of science, but I also noticed that you had a minor in public health when you were an undergrad. So what made you choose the Master of Science opposed to the Master's of Public Health route?
So it was really just the opportunity. I am originally from New York, and I was looking at different programs in the area, and to get a better leverage into getting to the internship, I knew a master's would be helpful. And I knew with NYIT, I don't know if that's still accurate, but at the time they didn't need a GRE. So it was kind of like a last minute thing. I applied, got in, and I started taking my master courses. So it just kind of was like, I really am go with the flow kind of girl. I don't really try to plan everything to the T. But yeah, whether it was MPH or MS, it just kind of happened to be that way. I was also looking into, as you know, that I also lived in Baltimore for some time at the Johns Hopkins MPH program, and I know they have the MS MPH, which I thought was cool. But I already started courses at NYIT, and I didn't want to go through that process of taking my GREs and transferring and all of that.
So I noticed that you had experience, in New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia. How do you think experiences from the different states within the East Coast has helped you as a dietitian, if at all?
Yeah, I don't think the location was helpful. I think just more the experiences themselves. In New York, I worked in the city, New York City, so it was diverse. Like a lot of the cities that I worked in were all very diverse in itself. So I was able to work with different culture backgrounds in Baltimore and Philadelphia and New York. So it was nice to get those different experiences just to see how different cities work. But it was it depended on the job experience. So in New York, I was AmeriCorps member. In Baltimore, I worked for WIC, which is a federal program, and Philadelphia, it was more kind of corporate hospital area. So it depends on the area I was working in, which kind of determined the populations who I was working with.
Great. And then you've also worked in like community and clinical settings, like you said, Hopkins, working with WIC, doing outpatient stuff like that. So between those two settings, which do you think is like your favorite, or what one do you lean to and why?
Yeah, I would definitely say community. I just think out of all of my jobs, I loved working for WIC. It's the population that I work with. It's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the health field. Women, pregnancy, we all come from women, and nutrition is such a important part of the journey for soon as you're in your mother's womb. So yeah, I just think working at WIC was just a great opportunity to see different backgrounds, work with different people, and also get a better understanding of breastfeeding, gestational diabetes. I had the opportunity to work with lactation consultants. So there was just so many different benefits of working there.
So what kind of things did you do on a day-to-day basis at WIC compared to, Hopkins or working as a campus dietitian?
So WIC was more counseling, I would say. I was a research technician. This was before becoming a dietitian. It was more of the research side. So I wasn't my favorite, just because there wasn't that much patient interaction. Like, it's all research. I was kind of like in a room with no windows, and I know most dietitians are used to that. And it was like in a kitchen, and it really depended on how many patients were there for research. There was be some days I wouldn't do anything for like 10 hours, because it was just dependent on the income of the research. So that really wasn't my favorite. Clinical, again, it's more of acute. You're just focusing on that current problem. I really like to focus on prevention, and looking at the overall picture. When people are in the hospital, they don't, like, nutrition is like the last thing they want to think about. And with nutrition, it's the readiness to change. And if they're not ready to change, it's really hard to just be giving them information they don't want to receive at that time. So that's why I love what I'm doing now. People are coming to me at my practice when they feel ready, and they need that support.
So has your practice always been online, or just is that because of the pandemic, or were you guys in person at all?
Yeah, so I started Crave with Carlie. It's been about a year, so right when the pandemic hit, but that wasn't intentional. And I always did want to do virtual, just because I like the freedom of traveling and being wherever I want. So it just happened that the pandemic occurred, and it was also a benefit though, because now more people are online. Now insurances do virtual, so I'm able to also accept insurance and work with more people in the Philadelphia area. So that was just always my goal. My dad is a doctor and has his own private practice, so I always knew that's what I wanted to do. It just wasn't, a spur of the moment, or seeing other dietitians, what they're doing on Instagram. It's just something I always knew that I wanted to do. I like having the freedom and the ability to work with people that want to work with me.
So I know that you do Crave with Carlie, but do you do renal outpatient on the side, or do you do it under the Crave with Carlie umbrella, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so that's separate. I work for a company, and it's per diem. It's about 8 hours a week. I decreased my hours over the year as my business is growing. So my goal is to eventually go full time in my private practice. But I do like that patient interaction a little bit, and it's nice to just get out the house with COVID, and being on virtual. So it is nice kind of to break up my schedule that way. So it's about 8 hours a week. I'm working with the patients.
Great. And then I noted you also mentioned that, being virtual also has its benefits, because, you're not bound to a specific area. You can go around. What negatives have you come across with being only virtual?
I wouldn't say there has been any negatives. I mean, yeah, I don't, not that I know of. Like, I would say maybe like the system, like some people don't know like how to log in the virtual sometimes, which could be
Hmm.
difficult, and like
Yeah,
the system's down. But no like negatives that are like huge that I can think of right now.
that's awesome. For like a new business or within the past year or so, it's great that there are no, I don't want to say issues, but there's no like bumps in the road. So
Yeah.
I know you kind of hit on what Crave with Carlie is, but in your opinion, if you were explaining it to someone and like to the listeners who are listening to this, how would you describe it to them?
Describe my business.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Crave with Carlie is a virtual private practice. I help with majority women around the same age as me, between 25 to 35, looking to start a family, grow a family, um, different conditions from diabetes, PCOS, but a lot of them are overall healthy and just want prevention and want to get a better understanding of how to eat, how to grocery shop, and it's just one-on-one for now. I'm how businesses scale and grow. They go to group coaching and then courses eventually. So that's what where I do see in the future. But for right now, it's just pretty much one-on-one, virtual, and it's just really making those small changes over time for long-lasting results. It's really improving their relationship with food, get a better understanding of what they need to eat, because a lot of my clients that come to me know that their relationship with food is not the greatest, and they're looking for guidance, for support from a professional, from a dietitian.
Before working at WIC, did you have an interest in, helping women, or did it really
Mhm.
come through that experience at WIC?
Yeah, so definitely before. So even like all when I mentioned I was originally a nursing student, all the topics related to nutrition, I was in love with: diabetes, obesity, breastfeeding. And then on my campus, there was a group called Preconception Peer Educators, where we'd actually go in and talk to teenagers about just like healthy eating and how, what you do now can affect your baby. So that's really where like my love for like prevention came from, and especially correlating that to women's health. And then there was something that just really came out to me, just like the South, they're higher in obesity, and there's also a higher risk for infant mortality. So it's like all of these are all related to nutrition. So that's really where I would say like my interest like peaked, and I really wanted to help reduce those rates, especially in the Black community.
Most definitely. And then I know you're working in Philadelphia. So is there a specific reason why you're in that area? Is it just where you're living, or like why did you stumble upon that area when you've worked in both, or you're from New York and you've gone down to Baltimore?
Yeah, so I loved Baltimore. I After I graduated, I went back home to New York, and my now husband, was working in Baltimore. And I love Baltimore just because I feel like there's so many nutrition job opportunities. There's the NIH, there's Johns Hopkins, there's UMD, there's so many different there's also the USDA, so many job opportunities in Baltimore and Maryland area that I just knew I wanted to go there. But we actually moved here to Philly because my husband is getting his PhD here now. So we've been here for about 3 years.
Great. So you have a strong presence on social media? So is that to appeal to your target group? Is that because you have an interest in it to brand yourself, or what's your main purpose for wanting to be on social media?
Yeah, so I actually did a presentation on social media and dietetics, and it really is changing. I originally started my profile when I was an intern, to show people, what it's like to be an intern, and now it's grown to marketing my business. So that's what I mainly use it for, but it's also to give people information, because there's other people that are not dietitians giving information, and you want to make sure that people are getting the correct information around nutrition.
Great. And then do you also do recipe development? Because I know you post some meals and stuff like that. Is it just, I eat this on Thursday, so I want to post about it on Friday, or do you do like the development and stuff behind that?
Yeah, so for the most part, it's more personal and more fun. I do like to like incorporate my Haitian culture and show people the different dishes, and some opportunity just being present on Instagram. A lot of people have reached out to me, companies have reached out to me, and I actually had the opportunity to develop a recipe for one of their recipe books. So most of it's just for fun, but if the opportunity comes and it aligns with my values, I may go for that.
So what is your favorite food or like recipe that you've come across or came up with?
Oh, that's a good one. And I hate favorites. Um, I don't think I have a favorite food or recipe. I mean, like my go-to is definitely just like enchiladas. I put like a black bean enchilada on my recipe in my blog recently, but like enchiladas are nice because you can make them in bulk. You can make chicken enchiladas, shrimp enchiladas, black bean enchiladas. So that's kind of like one of my go-tos I share with people.
Awesome. And then as I guess I don't want to say a younger registered dietitian, but you're closer to, your college experience, your master's, your internship compared to, other dietitians. What kind of advice would you have for students that are looking to get into the private practice realm, wanting to focus on, women's health or go into organizations like WIC?
I would say put yourself out there. The opportunities come as long as you're there. It's nothing's by luck. So you do have to, put in the work, see where you want to be, and look at people that are there, and get a good understanding of how you can possibly get there. But every path is different. Again, like I didn't apply for my internship right away. So, just know that you have your own journey, and that, whatever you want, just continue going for it. Stay positive, surround yourself by people who motivate you, and that you can learn from. Also, go back to like your professors, they really are there for you. And they want to see you grow because you are going to be an example as an alumni from coming from their program. So, leaning onto your network, and um, social media. Like social media is so great that you can connect with people and message them, and just look at their profile and see how have they grown. I love going through like people that I admire and look up to, and like just seeing where they started from on their social media. Like doesn't happen overnight. Like it takes time, and it's really consistency and believing in yourself. It really is believing in yourself, and that mindset.
Yeah, and I think at least a lot of the dietetic friends that I have, they like, quick results. They're like, okay, I'm doing this, I want to see this, but understanding that there is a gradual growth and like consistency that you need to have to build something up. So I guess speaking of building up, where do you envision Crave with Carlie to be within the next few years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I envision it growing, maybe having more people on my team, dietitians, other employees and staff, but keeping it still as a small business, maybe actually having a physical building, um, in Philadelphia if I'm going to, continue taking insurance. So there's different opportunities. But like I said, like I'm only doing one-on-one, so maybe eventually group coaching and online courses, but also maybe having a bigger impact in Philadelphia by having a physical building.
Great, and I think I can ask my last question. But when you wake up in the morning, what makes you want to be a dietitian? Why is it, not wanting to, go back to nursing school or something like that? What keeps you going?
Yeah, I love that our profession has so many opportunities. Like private practice is just one aspect, and like if you want to specialize more in your private practice, you can freelance. There's just so many opportunities. Wherever there's food, there needs to be a dietitian. So I just love that there's always opportunities to grow and change your career. Like you can really change your career within being a dietitian. So that's why I would say, what keeps me going and will have me keep, taking my CEUs to stay credentialed. Um, and I would also say, my clients for sure, the fact that I really am making an impact on their lives, that they really are, people are just really damaged around food, my clients who are, and the fact that they have that breakthrough and feel better about, eating a cookie because they felt ashamed about not eating a cookie. And just like having the opportunity to really talk through their emotions and their beliefs around food and changing that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all this great info you gave with us. I really think I'm going to, well, I take away stuff from every interview, but, I think this one really, emphasis on not everything's going to happen so quickly. It's going to take time. You have to be consistent. You can't just snap your finger and expect it to grow overnight. And I really appreciate that as someone who likes to see results fast.
You're welcome.
And thanks so much for being here, Carlie. I think that's very sage advice, like she was saying, that we can't say it enough to students coming up, is putting yourself out there. The answer is almost as easy as you think it is, but not as easy as it sounds. So
Yeah. And honestly, like the opportunities, like you may like want something, and what if you're not ready? Like if let's say like a big like news network reach out to me and I don't feel ready at that time. So the opportunities that come to you are meant for you at that time. So, don't try to rush things. Yeah, just be consistent, and what's for you is for you.
fantastic. And best of luck to you. And for those listening, check back each week for another great interview that we drop every Sunday.